Hi, welcome to a new video, and this is the big one. So this is my initial look at Gran Turismo 7. So I unlocked at midnight last night. I got a couple of hours with it, and I've had about 3 hours this morning or so with it. I've done around about 250 miles in it, and got about about cafe menu 11 or 12. So these are my initial thoughts on it, and the very first thing I want to get out of the way is when you fire the game up, the very first thing you are presented with is Music Rally. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just no. So yeah, that's done. That was a waste of resource putting that in, because if somebody gets it, can they leave it in the comments down below, because I don't get it. So moving on to and I'm going to break this very roughly down into sections. So we'll start off with the pretty stuff, so the visual side of things, and the audio. So visually, I'm playing it on a PS5 on a 4K monitor on my rig. Being perfectly honest, it is not going to translate across to a 1080p YouTube video with compression. It looks absolutely stunning. It really does. The car models are insanely detailed and look fantastic. The lighting on them is absolutely brilliant. The tracks don't quite match up to the same quality as the vehicles, if I'm going to be hyper picky about it. But at the end of the day, they still look damn good. They look a bit more worn in and lived in than past Gran Turismo circuits, which have always looked too sterile for my liking. With the ray tracing on replays, it looks absolutely amazing. So yeah, I mean, from a visual point of view, this is a sim racing, and I am going to use that term, sim racing tour de force. From a visual perspective, you would have to blow an awful lot of money on a PC to get something looking like this. Again, if I'm being hyper picky and critical, when you're driving in car and it's raining, the amount of rain on your windscreen is not even close to realistic. There's too little on there. But the flip side to that is the spray coming off the cars in front of you does look damn good, and overall rain is well done in it. It's not up there with the quality of Automobilista 2's rain, but to be blunt, very little is, possibly ACC, and that's about it. But overall, looks really good. And from an audio point of view, whilst some of the cars aren't quite as aggressive sounding and visceral as I know they are in reality, overall, considering GTs of the past were titles that were rightly criticised for the audio side of things, it's good. It really is good. It's a solid audio. The mix on it through a set of headphones, particularly 7.1 headphones. I'm using the, can't remember what they're called, but the funny black and white ones with the 3D audio for the PS5. I'm using a set of those, and yeah, it sounds really good from that perspective. So visually and from an audio point of view, absolutely brilliant, and the replays, as I say, are great. Particularly shout out to the inclusion of scapes. I mean, over 2,500 locations in that, and the photo mode in replays, both of them again absolutely fantastic. Polyphony Digital really are top of the game when it comes to this. So that's a positive. Let's now move on to a negative. Right, I might alternate between these, I don't know. AI and race structure. Now, I know we've had the Sophie AI presentation things where it's hyper fast, beating the fastest GT sport players on the planet, blah 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 blah. The AI in GT7 is unlikely to be replaced by Sophie. That's a real extremely unlikely possibility, for reasons I will go into on another video, maybe. The AI in Gran Turismo 7 is shocking. It's slow, even if you set it on the hard difficulty. You're only going to fail to come first in races quite simply because every race I've been through in the cafe menu so far has been a chase the rabbit race, and either you set your PP up to the limit, blitz 90% of the field within the first quarter of a lap, and then play catch up with the car that's, halfway round the circuit before you've even got started, or you have a bit more fun catching and passing the slower cars, but with the knowledge that you're probably not going to come first, you might come second or third, and trying to find a decent balance across it is just stupidly difficult. So pick your poison. The AI is still appalling. They still brake mid-corner where you shouldn't be braking and do so repeatedly. They are not always situationally aware. It's not an improvement from GTS at all, and anybody who defends this has not driven a game with even semi-competent AI in it. The AI, sorry, it's just absolutely shocking. It really, really is. Then want to talk, because I'm going to leave the physics and the force feedback and stuff like that until last, just to make you watch my damn video. I want to talk about the in-game economy, because I have some concerns about this. Now, don't get me wrong, when you first start off, you are getting cars thrown at you left, right and centre. The early cafe menus are throwing cars at you. You can get 3 cars out of a single menu by completing it, and that's great. But not every single one gives you a car, and there are, I think, a total of 36 cafe books, no more than 40. Okay, and they're not all giving you a car. So even if you say you get an average of 2 cars per cafe book over the entire period of time, that's a maximum of about 80 cars. Even if you got 3 cars for every single one, which you don't, you wouldn't be getting any more than 120 cars. That's a quarter of the car list. Okay, so let's say you can get a quarter of the car list off of that. You've then got what looks like, once that's done, a very grindy economy. And I say this for a number of reasons. One, we know that the price of cars in Gran Turismo titles has been going up over time. It simply has. You can go back and take a look if you don't believe me. Go back to Gran Turismo 4 and the most expensive cars were 4.5 million credits. You could earn money a hell of a lot quicker in GT4 for reasons I'll talk about. You can't do that, and 20 million credit cars exist. They are a thing in GT7. Any car you win, even if it's a duplicate, you cannot sell it. Simple as that. You can't sell it. You can discard it, you get nothing for it. Contrast that with GT4, going back again, and there was an event that you could win after about an hour or two's worth of playing, where you won a car that you could sell for 250,000 credits. So it's a world of difference. Also, the daily marathon is still there, so do 24.6 miles, and well, in GTS you've got a car. I mean, it was a very low chance of getting anything decent, but you got a car. With GT7 you get a raffle ticket, and this will randomly give you one of 3 monetary amounts, a part for a car that you might not own, or a car. Now, I've had about a dozen of these so far. I have not won a single car from them as of yet. I've got 1 part for a car I don't own, and the rest have been cash prizes, the majority of which have been the lowest output, which is 2,000 credits. It's a step backwards, and everything seems to point towards lowering the amount of money you get to make the economy more grindy, which I wouldn't have so much of an issue with if there wasn't microtransactions baked into the game from day one, where you can buy credits for the game for real money. So yeah, I don't like that at all. I'm not a fan of microtransactions whatsoever. And the implementation here leaves a bad taste in my mouth, to be blunt. Right, so that aside, car upgrades, I want to come back once I've explored it some more. I'll look at that and talk about that in the full review. But what I want to finish off this first look with is the physics and forced feedback. Now, I want to start off with forced feedback. There's a little bit more granular detail coming off of the track surface. That's a plus, without a shadow of a doubt. However, weirdly, you seem to feel curbs a hell of a lot less. I mean, I've accidentally hit some sausage curbs, and there's a triangular curb at Laguna Seca I've hit hard, and it's thrown the car massively. Barely felt it through the force feedback. But perhaps my biggest issue with the force feedback at the moment is twofold. One, the understeer rattle is still there, which is annoying. And two, there seems to be too much resistance drag when you're counter steering, which slows down counter steering more than there should be in reality. But they're minor things, but they are annoying more than anything else. But we then come on to the physics, and this has changed, and it's changed in some ways quite significantly. Load transfer is definitely working better, without a shadow of a doubt. The implementation of ABS and traction control, definitely better than they were in Gran Turismo Sport as well. The suspension model, the cars don't feel as ridiculously over-damped as they did in GTS. So again, all plus points. And we then get on to the tyre model. Now, this is where I've got some pros and cons. Overall, I like the changes that have come to the tyre model. I really, really do. But I think some people are going to struggle with it, and struggle with it in quite a big way. And I want to talk a little bit about why that is. So one of the issues I've always had with the simplified model of tyres within Gran Turismo is the fact that you could throw the car around like a lunatic with absolutely no real regard for tyre physics, because it would either grip or it wouldn't. And that made it very easy to understand what was going on, I think is the best way of describing it. When you get into tyre physics and tyre models the like of, say, Assetto Corsa or the road cars in the likes of, and I know there's not too many, but the road cars in the likes of Automobilista 2 or even the original AMS, what you find is that road tyres and tracks do not good bedfellows make. You cannot drive to the limits of a track in a road car on road tyres. It simply doesn't happen. That's a fact of reality. You have to drive to the limit of the car and the tyres, which is normally significantly lower than what is possible with a properly set up car on the track. And this means you've got to be a lot more careful with your inputs. You've got to be a lot more gentle with your inputs, particularly your throttle and your brake control. If you are overly heavy and snatchy with them, it's not going to like it. Now, that's a positive, by the way that Gran Turismo's done that. However, there is a caveat here. One of the things that you can do and should do if you ever take your real car to a track day is not run road spec tyre pressures, because they're too high for driving on a track. What you would normally do is lower all your tyre pressures by about 4 to 5 psi. And that gives you a bit more movement in the tyre, and you get a bit more grip and a bit more control off the back of it. And it's one of the things that I've always recommended people do, for example, in Assetto Corsa. If you want to take a road car onto the track in Assetto Corsa running the street tyres, what you want to do immediately is drop your tyre pressures by 4 to 5 psi. Well, you still can't do that in Gran Turismo 7. You cannot change your tyre pressures. And what this means is the comfort tyres in particular, for a lot of cars, they just feel like overinflated road tyres that you're trying to use on a track, and it's not that much fun, being perfectly honest, because you have to baby things massively as a result. So what I've found is, depending on the car, as a bare minimum, you're going to want either comfort soft or sport hard, and you really need to go below that as well. It really does depend on the car, and you're going to have to play around with it. It would be nice if we could just mess around with the tyre pressures and solve the problem that way. The other thing that you are going to find is that with some of the cars, you are not going to be able to apply the throttle heavily, or in some cases at all, when you are cornering, particularly in older rear-wheel drive cars. The American Muscle is a good example of this, because if you do, the back end is going to step out on you. So you do need to be a bit more careful. Is it the last word in realism? No, it's not. The likes of AMS2, R-Factor 2, Assetto Corsa still have a better physics model overall, but is it, in my view, a positive step in the right direction for the Gran Turismo series? Yes, it is. But I can see a lot of people who are not perhaps used to this being unhappy with this. But what I would get you to think about is, when you're driving your real car, how often do you go full throttle, pedal to the actual floor, or brakes to the actual floor when you're cornering? And the answer is going to be you don't, even if you're on track with a road car. And if you've done a track day, you will know this. It's partial throttle, it's constant throttle around corners, braking in a straight line until you get used to it, and it's going to need to learn some of these more nuanced approaches, and it might not be for everyone. I'm actually quite surprised they've gone this far with Gran Turismo, but we'll see how it plays out. I'm going to keep playing. I've got the day off work today, so I'm going to put some more seat time in with this, and hopefully I'll have a full review out by the end of next week, once I've had some good seat time in it, and hopefully have a better idea of if the economy is grindy as I feared or not, and we'll probably have had a few patches by then, so we'll see what comes off of those. So that is my look at Gran Turismo 7. If you've enjoyed the video, please do hit the like button, and if you want to watch more content like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.